said, I'm going to introduce Jen Dickinson with Mid-Missouri Pelvic Health. All yours.
So, like Kelly said, my name is Jen or Jennifer Dickinson. I am a physical therapist. That's what the PT stands for, and then the DPT is just I have a doctorate in physical therapy. So that's what all the letters at the end of my name mean. And in September of this last year, I opened Mid-Missouri Pelvic Health. So
It worked for me.
we'll just do it old school, sorry. So, no, it's okay. So I see a lot of new faces, so I'll just introduce myself a little bit first. My maiden name actually is Vogelsmeyer, so I am from Sweet Springs. I graduated high school in 2007. It's been a little bit. I went to the University of Missouri in Columbia and received my doctorate in 2013. The man you see sitting next to me is my high school sweetheart, Chris. He actually is from Sedalia. So if you've seen the Dickinson name in Sedalia, that is my husband's family. I have two beautiful kiddos, Olivia, who's 8. She is the reason I got into pelvic floor therapy. And then Eli, my son, is 5. In terms of like work history, I worked at Fitzgibbon Hospital in Marshall right out of college, and I worked there for 7 years. I actually started doing pelvic floor therapy in 2016. In January of 2020, I transitioned out of the hospital into an outpatient clinic, which is physical therapy of Concordia, not knowing that 2 months later it was going to be the best thing ever to not work in a hospital when COVID started. So it was perfect timing. And then, like I said, in September of 2023 is when I opened Mid-Missouri Pelvic Health. So I have both a mission and a vision statement, and the big reason I wanted to do the presentation today was really in line with my vision, and so that is just improving public awareness of pelvic health. Raise your hand if you've even heard of pelvic floor physical therapy before. Yeah, so that's exactly why the reason I wanted to do this presentation was just to start with some awareness in the community. There is no other provider in Sedalia that does pelvic floor therapy. In fact, before, everybody from Sedalia either had to go to Kansas City, Columbia, or they would come see me in Concordia. So you may be asking yourself, what the heck is pelvic floor physical therapy? And so I see people along the entire age spectrum, all genders, because everybody has a pelvic floor. Those are the muscles that are at the base of your pelvis, and they are in charge of things related to peeing, pooping, procreation, prolapse. I see people for lots of variations of pain in that part of their body, and then also during pregnancy and postpartum. So I would say over the last month or so, my labor and delivery prep clients have really increased. It's becoming a lot more popular to want to go into a delivery just with some knowledge of how to push, what options do I have, and it's just women being very proactive about taking care of their bodies before and after babies so that they're not dealing with these issues for long amounts of time. So I have a little clinic space that's over in the Canvas Suites, which is downtown here in Sedalia. And so it's just me, myself, and I am the secretary, I am the physical therapist, I am the cleaning lady and the laundry lady and all the things. So definitely just a one-woman show in terms of entrepreneurship, which is nothing I learned in PT school. So it's just me and the patient in the room, and we do the evaluations, lots and lots of education and questions, and kind of goes to the next slide, which is what do I do when I'm in there, right? So it is a form of physical therapy. I am by nature a physical therapist. So lots of hands-on treatments depending on what they're coming for, right? If somebody's coming to me for constipation and issues with bowel movements, the treatment's gonna look different than it does if, hey, we're getting ready to have a baby. How do we, go into it as prepared as possible? So it's very individualized. They are all 1 hour long treatments, which is almost unheard of in physical therapy, to have 1 hour with your therapist. That second slide, or the second picture is, yes, me sitting on a toilet, because there is a correct way that you're supposed to sit on the toilet to have a bowel movement, And so we go over all of that education. It literally is all the stuff that you never knew that you needed to know. Every day I hear people saying, why did nobody tell me this before? So I love getting to share that with patients and answer the questions that they're too afraid to ask other people, or you're just not sure you trust Google's answer, or you don't want that on your Google search history. Funny side note, when I worked at the hospital setting, the IT guy and I had to have a little conversation about, don't look at my search history, because it's probably gonna seem a little odd for a physical therapist, but I promise it's all pertinent to my job. So I had to get him to unblock some sites. Because I needed to be able to look stuff up and show patients, like sex toys, for example, and that sort of thing. So normally those get blocked in a hospital IT department. The third picture are some acupuncture needles. So I do various modalities, such as functional dry needling. I also do cupping. Take these little scraper tool looking things and we work on fascia, and so I have lots of hands-on stuff, kind of again, just depending on what the patient needs. And then obviously, what is physical therapy without exercise? So whether the patient's goal is to just gain as much strength as possible during a pregnancy, or hey, I'm 40 and I want to train for a half marathon, but I leak when I run, we go through all of the stuff that they would need to know in order to not only work on their symptoms, but create as much strength and resilience as possible moving forward. So why do I do what I do? This is it. I have hands down the best patients in the world, and I will argue that against anybody. The people who come see me truly are A, super brave for even, coming to do the type of evaluation and treatment that we do, but B, they share the most intimate details with me, and I get to help them with things that they didn't know could get better, whether that is related to peeing, pooping, painful intercourse, going into labor prepared, or hey, I just had a baby, I want to get back to working out, how can I do that safely? I love what I do, and I have to pinch myself that I get to do it full time and be my own boss now. So when I do presentations, I get asked similar questions kind of over and over again. So I'll go over some of those, and then I think I have like one more slide, and then I'll open it up for questions. So do I take insurance? So everything that I do is still physical therapy. It is covered under out-of-network physical therapy benefits. I don't contract with insurance companies because that really wouldn't allow me that 1 hour one-on-one. And so this really opens the floor for, hey, I know you initially said that you were having painful intercourse, but now your neck's really hurting. Like, we can really work on whatever the patient wants to work on and not have to worry about, is insurance going to cover that? Am I going to get a surprise bill 6 months down the road? Yada, yada, yada. Is pelvic floor PT just for women? No, I have seen men. I have seen kiddos for bedwetting. I've seen, oh gosh, really, like I said, the entire age spectrum. I think my oldest patient I've ever seen, she was 99, and the youngest patient I've ever seen was 4. So the difference is obviously with kids, there's no like internal component to evaluations, but in terms of like adults, if they've had a pelvic exam or they are sexually active, then we are kind of game to do whatever they're comfortable with. Is pelvic floor therapy new / why have I never heard of this before? It's not new at all. In fact, in 1985 is when France started automatically giving pelvic floor therapy to their moms after they had babies. 1985, so we're talking almost 40 years ago that they automatically get pelvic floor therapy after they have babies. So why is that not the case here? It's all insurance driven. Our American Healthcare Society is just very retroactive in terms of we react to problems and then try to fix them instead of paying for things to prevent it in the first place. Like a lot of things in medicine and healthcare, it starts kind of on the coasts and then works its way in. Like I said, when I started back in 2016, you had to go to Kansas City or Columbia. Now it's become a lot more prevalent because people are seeing the benefit of it and asking their provider for a referral. And so it's popping up in smaller communities like Sedalia. So why open a clinic in Sedalia if you're not from Sedalia? Well, Sweet Springs is tiny, so I could never open a clinic there. But the next slide shows you kind of this little medical desert that pelvic floor therapy is in Sedalia. So these are where there are already therapists. Look at all this area where there's nobody. So just from a business standpoint, it meant the most sense to come south to Sedalia rather than north to Marshall because they have somebody in Carrollton already. And so I see people from Cole Camp, Stover, Versailles, Tipton, Sedalia, obviously. Gosh, I've had people come from Macon to see me before, down by the lake, like Warsaw, like all over. So the beautiful thing about kind of providing a service here in town that hasn't been here before is my clinic is bringing a lot of people to Sedalia that maybe wouldn't have come in here. And so like I said, then my husband and his family had various connections here in Sedalia. So it's become, you know, my business home over the last 6 months or so. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
You said in the beginning that your daughter was the reason that you got into this in the first place. Why is that?
So initially, at my first job at Fitzgibbon, they wanted somebody to do pelvic floor therapy. They saw the need, but I hadn't had any kids yet at the time, and I looked into what had to happen during the training, and I said, no, I'm not letting people do that to me. You know, your modesty is very different after you've had kids. And then I had my daughter, and without getting too graphic, I had a lot of things happen during that delivery, and so basically everything I treat people for, I've experienced at some point since her. So after that, I was like, I could see where this would be beneficial. You lose a lot of that modesty with, I don't want people up in my business after you've had kids. So because of what I went through with her delivery, that's kind of what sparked it. And then my son was an emergency C-section, so I had kind of both ends of the spectrum and can really sympathize with my patients no matter what their delivery looks like. So I truly believe everything happens for a reason. God does not make mistakes, and that is the reason why I kind of worked my way here today.
Thank you.
Yes.
How do you market yourself?
That's a great question. So I think and granted, we get zero business background in PT school. Like, it's how to be a therapist, how to do all the things, not how to run a business. Literally no training on how to open a clinic or run a business. I've since done some business coaching. I started in January to really help with a lot of that, but I think when it comes to marketing, you have to kind of ask yourself, what's your goal with the marketing? And so my initial goal is people have to even know that pelvic floor therapy exists. They have to know why they need it before I'm trying to convince them to come see me. And so that's part of why, you know, a lot more of the forums, social media. So I started an Instagram page back in 2021, just with, hey, I wanted to get awareness out there. And then, again, there are no mistakes. And I got a lot better at trying to clearly articulate what therapy is and why it's beneficial. And so I have the Instagram, I have the Facebook. I don't love social media from a personal standpoint, but I need it on a business standpoint. So when I get new patients and I ask them, how did you find out about me? So that I can start seeing, okay, where am I getting the most bang for my buck? And I spent a grand total of $30 on advertising since I opened. And my new patients are about 4 weeks out right now. So the caseload's built quite a bit. Mostly word of mouth, right? Like, when you find somebody who can help fix problems and then they tell their friends, hey, you need to see this person, it just kind of grows and builds from there.
Have you thought, like, do you reach out to like other clinics and like put your name out there to other clinics so that they can refer you?
Yes, so I have, obviously I worked at Fitzgibbon, so like the OBGYNs and the therapists there, excuse me, they know I exist. I get them telling patients about me. Concordia still has somebody who does pelvic floor therapy there, but like when I was in PT school, I did a rotation at Peak, usage of peak performance. So they refer me patients all the time. I actually just got a phone call this week from one of the therapists. Hey, I have a patient who's complaining of X, Y, Z. Does that sound like something I need to send her to you for? Absolutely. I truly believe that patients will benefit the most when we can be collaborative. I've gotten out of my comfort zone a lot and reached out to like other, not PTs, but just other providers. So I've had different meetings with massage therapists and chiropractors and mental health therapists, because that goes very hand in hand with what I do, especially when we start going down the kind of rabbit hole of like sexual trauma and that sort of thing. So yeah, just reaching out and trying to create that network that I didn't necessarily have locally in Sedalia. Yeah.
Questions all day long. So you're booking new patients 4 weeks out. So you're growing quickly. One, do you see yourself expanding? Number two, how do you see yourself expanding if that's the case?
So that's a great question, and I've asked myself that because I understand that to grow beyond yourself is basically as big of a decision as it is to even start in the first place. Because a lot of my marketing right now is come see me. I do these things. One, pelvic floor therapists are hard to come by. Right now, I'm just trying to get like all my systems in place to really take care of the patients that I have. I'm not ruling it out, but it's not my primary goal for right now. The business coaching that I've done is specific to pelvic floor therapy, and the next step would be to hire like an administrative assistant before I hire another therapist. My time is capped more than anything else right now, because I prioritize my family. So 4 days a week, I don't see patients after 3 o'clock because I go pick them up from school, and that's not something I'm willing to compromise on because they're my why. They're the reason I wanted the flexibility. So that next step would be to hire like an admin to patients back and answer emails and send super bills and do all of that sort of stuff. If I decided to go beyond what we call happy as a little clam phase, then I have some people that I potentially would try to convince to come work here because they've been my students before. So it's not my priority.
What do you think your biggest struggle is, like either marketing or getting people in or like keeping people consistently coming in? What is your biggest struggle?
So my biggest struggle initially was, what the heck is pelvic floor therapy? Why do I need to come see you? Hence the really hitting the social media hard. And so I started doing, especially on my Facebook page, like on Mondays at lunch, I do what's called a lunch and learn. I do like a 5 to 10 minute live where I go over different topics just so that people can A, see your face, B, start to gain trust in my knowledge base, and then C, just start to gain that trust. That's been my biggest kind of struggle, at least at the beginning. I don't really have a huge problem in getting people to consistently come see me because I try to, that has to do with like what we do during the session, right? Like during the last 5 to 10 minutes, we do wrap up and talk about what we're gonna do next time. Here's my game plan, short-term, long-term, what are your goals? So we work through all of that stuff during this session. So the biggest thing was just awareness. Because like when we started, raise your hand that you even knew what pelvic floor therapy was. So that's step one. They have to even know that it exists.
Have you thought about like, or have you boosted any of your posts to the surrounding area?
That was the $30 that I spent.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I wondered.
Yes, so I met with an advertising guy just out of pure curiosity. Hey, what would it cost? Do you go digital? Do you go print? What route do you take? And he was way outside of my budget. I'm just starting out. I'm new. I have a big marketing budget, right? Because it's just me generating income. He actually was the one that suggested, he said, hey, just try like a $30 week-long Facebook post boost. And I did that, and it grew quite a bit, just the number of like followers that I had. Facebook is much more local to Sedalia.
Yeah.
My Instagram is 900 something people. It's not anything crazy, but it's a lot of other public work therapists. So when I'm doing my social media, it posts both places, but I put more effort into the Facebook because that's where, hey, when patients come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the post that so-and-so shared on your Facebook, and that's what's getting me the most kind of bang for my buck right now.
Did you see a lot of people like reaching out to you after that? Did you see it beneficial as like did your clientele grow from that?
I had more followers immediately afterwards, and pelvic floor PT is notorious for, I gotta think about this for a minute before I jump into it. I had the most growth when I started taking, so I did the business coaching that started in January, and they had us take off the pricing on the website and take off the online scheduling, because once you can get them to call you and connect one-on-one, that's when you can turn those maybes into, yes, I'm gonna book.
Yeah.
How they described it was 20% are gonna be yeses, come visit your website, had somebody recommend you. 20% are gonna be no's, like it doesn't matter what you have on there, they're not gonna come see you. 60% are maybes. And so if you can talk to them, yes, you're not crazy. I see people all the time that have XYZ complaints, this is what we can do, that turns them into yeses. So that's where I saw the biggest change. Yeah.
Are there local opportunities for more speaking events like this that you're interested in trying to get connected with for more educational opportunities?
So that is, so it's the awareness piece of it, right? Because I'm not from Sedalia, I don't live here. We live north of Sweet Springs. I just don't even know what opportunities are available. So, I mean, if you know of other opportunities, shoot me an email. I'd be happy to see if it looks like a good fit. Just, little connections here and there are kind of what's driving it right now. So I'm almost 6 months in, just learning and growing. So.
Yeah.
No other questions? Last question of the day. What can we as a community do for you?
Just the awareness, right? Follow the stuff on social media, share it if you feel like you have friends or family that would resonate with it. Just educating yourself on, oh, hey, there is somebody that works on this, and this. So that if you hear somebody that, there's therapy for that, right? And it's actually here in Sedalia. So that would be just the biggest support, is keeping your eyes and ears open. If you yourself, which I think everybody could benefit from it, but if you yourself aren't like, hey, I need to go see her, and just keep me in mind, planting that little seed of this exists and here. You don't have to go off. I still have doctors that send people to Kansas City just because it's not clicking in there yet.
Thank you, Jen.